Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining our Gap Year webinar. We are excited to have you guys here. I hope you guys gained some insightful information about the gap year and what it means and how to actually use your time wisely during a gap year. I am Mrs. Wade. I will be one of your presenters today. I am a high school counselor here at Enlighteum, and we will also have Miss Benedict. She is our head of our counseling program, and she is also a high school counselor for us as well. We're going to go through the slides and give you the information about the gap year and how to use it wisely. And at the end, we will give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. So, a gap year. Basically, a gap year is exploring opportunities beyond high school. It is the time that you take a break after you graduate, before you start college, to kind of get out and explore and just find things that might interest you so that you can make the best decision on how to move forward career-wise. So basically, a gap year is usually 6 to 12 months. It's the period of after high school and before college. So it can be anywhere, but it's usually a minimum of a year, but it can be between 6 to 12 months. It's a time to explore interest, gain experience, and grow personally. It's not really about wasting your time. I wouldn't look at it as wasting your time, because I would recommend, if you do take some time off, explore, get out there, see what you like, so that you can make the best decision for you going forward. Basically, it's an intentional pause to grow, explore, and to prepare for your future. So the purpose of a gap year is basically to gain clarity, to figure out what you want to study or do. Basically, you can gain experience with real world skills through work, travel, or volunteering. You can develop growth by developing independence and confidence, and you can recharge. A lot of times after high school, I know a lot of students are kind of burnt out. They don't really want to know what they really want to do. So a gap year is basically used as a time to just get out there, decide what you want to do, so you can make the best decision for you going forward. Students who take gap years should use that time wisely to be more focused later. The thought process would be to gain more maturity, to be more prepared for real world. Oftentimes when students graduate high school, like I say, they're unsure about what you want to actually do. So taking the gap year can be beneficial to making the best decision for yourself going forward. So basically, some common activities of a gap year would be volunteering, service projects, things like that. You can actually do an internship or just gain real world experience on the job. You can actually travel, engage culturally. Independent projects is also a good time during a gap year. You can be creative or do something entrepreneurial. Learning a new skill, language, coding, music, or anything that seeks your interest, you can definitely just use that time to actually explore to see what you would like to do going forward. Take that time, use it wisely. I can't stress it enough. Using a gap year time to explore to see exactly what you want to do when you move forward after high school is definitely a good time to just make the best decision for yourself going forward. So, some examples of what you can do during your gap year. First, we have three examples listed here. Basically, student A volunteered abroad and discovered a passion for healthcare. So, volunteering at different places also gives you the opportunity to discover your likes and dislikes of what you want to do moving forward with your career. So student B worked locally. Sometimes you want to save money. Maybe you don't have enough finances to pay for college. So you can work locally and save enough money so you can actually pay for your college and be college debt free. Student C learned coding online and landed an internship. Internships are a great way for you to explore your likes and dislikes in the career field. But these are just a few examples. There are various ways that you can get out there and explore during a gap year so you can have a clear direction for your future. So a lot of you may be wondering, what would be an impact on college admissions if you take a gap year? Basically, oftentimes colleges often view the gap years as wisely. They view them as a time where students took time to find out exactly what they really wanted to do before deciding on a major for college. It shows maturity, initiative, and responsibility. It can help you write stronger essays. So if you're out there and you're exploring and having real life experiences, it allows you to gain the knowledge so that you can have a better application and have a stronger essay to write about when you do your college applications. And also, many colleges have a deferral option, and a deferral option is when you can apply and then be accepted later on. So some colleges allow you to apply early on, even a year in advance, and still have you accepted a year later. And so you can also look into that as well when you're doing a gap year to see how that works with what colleges you want to go to. So the impact on your career, basically using a gap year can allow you to gain transferable skills like leadership, time management, and adaptability. It can help you build your resume with real world experiences. It can also allow you to have networking opportunities. And basically, if you're out there and exploring having real hands-on job experiences, you can make connections with people that can also help you and give you knowledge and skills to help you better your decision and your careers going forward. So networking is a very good opportunity during your gap year. It also increases your confidence when entering the job or college environment. Basically, you use the gap year to develop, be more mature, have more independence, and have more confidence when you're going to college or gaining a college or career so that you can be better prepared during that time. So basically, what a gap year is just that time you spend from after high school going to college, using that time wisely to get out there and explore to see exactly what you want to do when you actually start college and what you want to major in. So now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Benedict, and she will start by giving you some tips on how to plan a gap year successfully.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mrs. Wade. So, I'm going to be talking about how you plan your gap year. Mrs. Wade mentioned, a lot of colleges do look favorably on a gap year, but you do need to have a little bit of structure because what we don't want and what you don't want to do is schedule yourself a gap year that becomes 5 gap years, becomes 10 gap years, and you don't ever really decide what you're going to do, right? So, we want to be intentional about our gap year. So the first thing you're going to want to do is set goals. What do you want to learn or achieve? Um, Even if you're taking a gap year for a reason like you're avoiding burnout or something like that, you for sure have some kind of interest or passion or something that you can work on during that time period, right? So maybe you need a break from school, but maybe you're really into soccer. So maybe you could do some coaching and kind of focus on that. Or maybe you're really into playing an instrument. So you can focus on extra lessons for that. Think about what you're hoping to learn or achieve during this break. Like, what is your goal of taking a gap year? And if your goal is just that you need a break, what else can you work on during that break? Got to budget wisely. So, a gap year is going to cost money, even if you don't do anything, even if you're like, I'm not going to volunteer abroad or do anything like that, you still have expenses. You might have less if you're living at home, you might not. So it's important to think about, what am I going to have to pay for? Do I have, maybe you have car insurance, or maybe you have to pay for the gas in your car or things like that. And that money is going to have to come from somewhere. So think about that in advance because you don't want to get a couple months into your gap year and then realize like, oh no, I'm out of I'm out of funds for this. The other thing you want to do is stay structured. You want to make a loose schedule, at a minimum. If you want more schedule, that's great too. But you want to at least have a loose schedule to avoid drifting and just keep yourself accountable. Again, a gap year can be really helpful, but you don't want it to turn into like 5 gap years or 10 gap years, or you're not really sure what you want to do next. So having that structure, even if it's a loose structure, is important. All right. The other things you want to do are seek guidance. So talk with your parents, talk with your grandparents, whatever adult is at home, talk with mentors that you trust, maybe like a youth pastor or youth leader or something like that. Um, or just any other advisor. So your school counselor, a teacher you have talked to before, anything like that. Just get some guidance. If you're thinking about doing a gap year, but you're not sure if it's right for you, it's just really helpful to bounce that idea off other people and just get their input. You also want to look for balance. So the structure is important. Even if you are, taking a year off for burnout, the structure is important, and it's good to have it be um, helpful in a learning time. However, you also can, take a break and incorporate like that fun sort of time off aspect to it as well. Finding the balance is important. So on the one hand, you want to have the structure. On the other hand, you do want to make sure that you give yourself time and space for growth. All right, there are, as we've mentioned, some potential challenges you might run into, and it's important to consider them when you're thinking about doing a gap year. That way, again, you don't get caught off guard. The first one I already talked about briefly, financial costs. There's going to be costs associated with any kind of a gap year, and you just want to make sure that one way or another you have that covered. Maybe that means getting a part-time job. Again, maybe that means living at home. You just want to make sure that you have a plan in place so that you're not surprised when you get a couple months in and run out of money. There can also be a fear of falling behind. Um, it's fairly traditional, especially the way that we, view school for kids to go from high school to college. You probably see your friends doing that. You've probably seen other people do that as well. But just because it's traditional and it's what I don't even know if I would say a majority of the kids do, but it's what the visible majority of the kids do if they're going to college. That doesn't mean it's the only path. And it doesn't even necessarily mean it's the right path for you, which is really what you have to start thinking about. It's not so much falling behind, because what you're doing is comparing yourself to other kids who might just have a different path. Um, Really, what you're doing is you're building skills and you're taking the time to really consider what's best for you. Because what can happen if you do what you think is the right path just based on what all your friends are doing or whatever, um, then it might not be the right path for you. You might get behind in a different way and it might just not be very satisfying. You might run into problems down the line. And the last thing is that it requires self-discipline. Like I've already mentioned, again, you don't want your gap year to become a long stretch of time that doesn't have an end. You really do want to have some structure to it, which does require a certain level of self-discipline. Fortunately, you are all online and have been doing online school, which also requires a level of self-discipline. So that's a skill you can carry from here into your gap year. All right, resources for students. As Mrs. Wade mentioned, there are gap year programs. You can Google and you can find a bunch of different ones. Definitely do some research and make sure they're reputable before you sign up with just any gap year program. I usually like to try to ask a couple of other people, like, have you heard of this? Does this look legitimate? Just to get some feedback. They do have some that are both locally and also abroad. Again, just kind of look into it. Um, there's also online platforms for volunteer work opportunities that you can look at. This can range. There's actually a lot of different platforms, volunteer work especially. Again, you can find local volunteer work. You can find international volunteer work if you just Google. Even some job sites like Indeed will sometimes have volunteer opportunities if you can look the right way. So just start doing some research now. As with any path you plan to take after high school, the more research you can do up front in advance, the better prepared you'll be. Because another thing you don't want to have happen is you don't want to get to the end of high school and be like, I'm going to take a gap year and not have a plan. You can go to college websites to look into gap year information and deferral policies. You can also ask mentors, counselors, or alumni who've taken gap years just for their feedback as well. Right. And then the final thoughts, a gap year is an intentional break with purpose. It offers growth, clarity, and valuable experience. And with the right planning, it can boost college and career readiness. Again, you just want to have a plan, even a little bit of structure just to get you there. And I believe, Mrs. Wade, now we have time for just questions and comments, right?
Yes, we do. So if any of you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand or you can just unmute yourself and just ask the questions at this time.
And if we don't have any questions, that's okay too, though. I would encourage you to reach out to your counselor or whoever else if anything comes up later.
Yes. And this webinar should be posted on our site. So if you needed to go back to refer to it, definitely check maybe give it a few weeks or maybe a month or so just for the latest. It should be on the website if you want to go back to refer to it. But again, like Ms. Benedict said, if you have any questions, be sure to reach out. Your counselors are always here to help you. And thank you guys for attending today. Have a good day.